Every year, millions of people download meditation apps with the same intention to quiet their minds. They sit down, close their eyes, and try to stop thinking. Within 30 seconds, they are thinking about whether they are thinking. Within a minute, they are thinking about the fact that they cannot stop thinking. By minute 3, they have decided that meditation is something other people are good at. Calm people, patient people, people with different brains, and they open their phones. This is not a failure of discipline. It is a failure of instruction. The instruction most people receive about meditation, clear your mind, stop your thoughts, achieve a state of inner stillness, describes a goal that the tradition it is supposedly drawn from never actually taught. In Zen Buddhism, the oldest and most rigorous school of seated meditation practice, the instruction is almost exactly the opposite. The practice is called Zazen, and its central teaching is this: you do not sit in order to achieve stillness. You sit in order to see clearly what is already here. Zazen means, literally, seated meditation. The formal practice originated in China in the 6th century and was carried to Japan by the monk Dogen in the 13th century, where it became the foundation of the Soto school of Zen. Dogen spent years studying in China under a master named Rujing before returning to Japan, and what he brought back was not a technique for achieving peace. It was something more specific and more demanding. He called it shikantaza, just sitting. Shikantaza does not mean doing nothing. It means doing only sitting, fully, precisely, without adding anything else to the act. Not watching the breath, not counting. Not repeating a word or visualizing a flame or working toward any interior goal. Just sitting with the posture upright and the attention open, not directed at any single object, not trying to produce any particular experience. This sounds simpler than it is. In practice, shikantaza is among the most demanding things a human being can attempt, because it requires you to be present without grasping at presence, to be aware without making awareness into an object, to sit without trying to get something out of sitting. Every time the mind moves toward a thought, and it will, continuously. Shikantaza is not the instruction to push the thought away. It is the instruction to notice the movement without following it, to return not to emptiness but to sitting itself, the sensation of posture, the fact of breath, the room as it actually is right now, without interpretation. What the mind does in Zazen is what the mind does all the time. The practice does not create mental activity. It makes existing mental activity visible. Most people spend their entire lives having thoughts without ever noticing that they are having them. A worry about money arrives and immediately recruits attention. Memory and planning, the mind is inside the worry, before it has registered the worry as a thought. An irritation about something that happened yesterday surfaces and immediately becomes a rehearsal, a judgment, a story by the time awareness notices it. The story has been running for several minutes. This is not a moral failing. It is the default operation of an untrained mind, which treats every thought as a summons and every feeling as an imperative. Zazen changes the relationship between awareness and thought, not by eliminating thoughts that is not possible, and the goal of eliminating thoughts is itself a thought, but by creating enough space between awareness and thought that the two can be distinguished. By sitting still long enough that the mind's tendency to leap becomes visible as a tendency rather than invisible as a fact. Once the leap is visible, it becomes optional. This is what Zen teachers mean when they say that Zazen reveals the nature of mind. They do not mean that something previously hidden suddenly becomes apparent. They mean that something always present the movement, the grasping, the story generation that runs continuously underneath conscious life, is finally seen for what it is, because the conditions of sitting create enough stillness to observe it. A person who has seen the mind's movement clearly over many sessions of Zazen is not a person who no longer has thoughts. They are a person who has learned that they are not their thoughts. The thought arrives. They see it arrive. They do not confuse its arrival with a command. The neuroscience of this maps closely onto what Dogen described. 8 centuries ago, when a person sits without any specific task, the brain activates what researchers call the default mode network, regions associated with self-referential thought, mind-wandering, autobiographical memory, and social cognition. It is the network of the self, the narrator that constructs a continuous story of who we are, what has happened to us, and what might happen next. In untrained meditators, default mode activity during rest tends to be disorganized. Mind wandering that is not observed as mind wandering. The narrator runs, and the person runs with it. In experienced practitioners, something different emerges. What distinguishes long-term meditators is not reduced default mode activity per se, but increased activity in regions associated with metacognitive monitoring. The parts of the brain that detect when attention has drifted and initiate its return. The meditator's mind wanders, but something in them notices the wandering. That noticing, and the return that follows it, is what practice is made of. What this means practically is that the loop, the capacity to watch what the mind is doing, rather than simply being what the mind is doing, is trainable. And once established through practice, it does not stay inside the meditation session. It transfers. People who practice Zazen regularly report, not that their minds become permanently quieter in daily life, but that they are less controlled by what their minds are doing. The anxious thought arrives. They notice it arrived. They do not immediately follow it into the anxiety. The reactive impulse rises. They feel it rise. They do not automatically act from it. The gap between stimulus and response, which for most people is nearly zero, becomes measurable. And in that gap, choice becomes possible. The instruction for beginning Zazen is simpler than most people expect. Sit upright on a firm cushion on the floor, or in a chair with both feet flat on the ground with the spine erect but not rigid. The hands rest in what is called the cosmic mudra, left hand resting in the right, both palms facing upward, thumbs lightly, touching to form a gentle oval in the lap. The eyes are half open, cast downward at roughly 45 degrees, soft and unfocused, resting on the floor in front of you. The reason for upright posture is not ceremonial. Slumping compresses the diaphragm and restricts breath. Lying down invites sleep. The upright spine alert, but not braced, grounded. But not rigid creates the physiological condition that the mental practice requires a body, awake and present, not straining toward anything. The eyes remaining half open is also deliberate. Closing the eyes entirely encourages the mind to turn inward, toward fantasy or sleep. Half-open eyes maintain a subtle contact with the physical world, the light in the room, the surface of the floor that anchors awareness in the present moment. Breath is not controlled and not counted. If it is short, it is short. If it is long, it is long. The practice is not to make it anything different from what it is. The practice is to notice what it actually is, right now, as it happens. When thoughts arise, and they will, within seconds, without exception, the instruction is not to suppress them and not to follow them. It is to let them be without engagement and to return attention to the physical reality of sitting, the weight of the body, the sensation of breath, the sounds in the room as they actually are. This return from thought back to sitting is the practice, not the stillness which comes and goes, not the absence of thought which is not the goal. The return, which happens as many times as it needs to, 10 times in 3 minutes, 100 times in 30. Each return is the practice complete in itself. 3 minutes is enough to begin, not because 3 minutes produces profound results, but because 3 minutes is enough to encounter the mind's movement directly and honestly, to discover that it moves constantly, to practice the return, to find that the return is possible. Zen masters are not people who have achieved a permanently quiet mind. They are people who have made the return so many times over so many years that the gap between drift and return has become almost imperceptibly small. The mind moves, they return. Not because they have eliminated the movement, but because they have become deeply familiar with it. The practice begins identically. For them and for anyone, sit down, sit upright, and discover probably within the first 30 seconds that the mind you thought you controlled has been narrating your life without permission for years. Zazen does not offer silence. It offers something rarer, the chance, finally, to hear what has always been playing, and to realize that you do not have to keep listening just because it is loud. If that kind of shift, quiet, incremental, and real, is something you are looking for, follow for more.